Thompson Productions.
Kristi Noem has been fired, consistent with what we have demanded on behalf of the American people. But let me also make clear, a change in personnel is not sufficient. We need a change in policy. And that has to be bold, dramatic, transformational, and meaningful.
Who is that guy? I don't know, but Kristi Noem is out. We're going to talk about that. There's basically three things. This is LPR. Thank you for joining us, people, this week, this Friday. We're going to talk about Kristi Noem. We're going to talk about some propaganda, and there's an Iran war still going on. And is Trump the savior? Is he Christ Almighty? Well, we're going to talk about that as well. Hang on, coming up.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise Crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is...
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. I hope the volumes are up this time. I'm doing what I can, everybody. I'm doing what I can to make sure we're coming through loud and clear. I'll even pop this up over in here. Welcome, this is Tyler Yonke, LPR. What say now? What's up, Tyler? Hey, how you doing? Glad to have you in the chat. Sorry I missed the show yesterday. If you guys are following along, remember, you could always go to tyleryonke.substack.com. I try to send out I'm advertising this, but yet yesterday I didn't even send out the notice. We had family, and I was planning on doing it. We had family in town, so just things got pushed back. So here we are today. We're coming to you on Friday, but we did a show Monday, and we had some hooting and hollering, some people who, gentlemen in the chat saying, incoherent. I don't know. I went back and listened. At the time, I was like, incoherent was me pushing the mute button, perhaps, when I didn't mean to. And actually, I was watching that, too. It just looks like it came on. I don't know. I'll try to keep a good eye on it today. You can even help me when we watch it on this side. This button here. We don't want that lit up. Anyway, he said I was incoherent, and I think it was because it's Iran bad, Israel good, and America just needs to go along with their puppet masters. And I wasn't even saying that. I was trying to make a point, and I'll do that again today, which is the standards for which some of these countries hold themselves to is crazy, okay? And the most moral army, we've heard that. That's insanity. And so simply by pointing that out, oh, then you're saying Iran is like, the bastion of wonderful. No, just stop acting like you're amazing and that your shit don't stink, okay? That's part of it. So we'll talk about that and kind of the whole dichotomy of what you have in here is, remember, if you push back against Israel in Gaza, means you are a Hamas supporter. If you're not a big fan of this war for Israel, you are an Iran supporter and therefore Hezbollah and therefore a funder of terrorism. That's what you're supporting. Okay, well then the flip side goes too, right? If you're not a fan of Tucker Carlson, you're a Jonathan Pollard supporter. I just keep putting that out there. I mean, I don't like the equation, but when you're going to play that game, you're going to play that game. People do that, and I'm like, well, why do you support Jonathan Pollard? And just I don't know. It seems to me to be just as dumb, but it's really what you're equating. If you're going to go one side, you got to go the other. But let's talk first about Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem, if you've seen any of the stuff that I've had on here, she is a cringe to me. You know, too much makeup, way well overdone. Probably as Ride with the Fire. Let's see if we can find it here. Ride with the Fire Bernstein says, where did his? Maybe I don't have his tweet. He's like, this this lady lasted 2 faces or something like that, because she's got so many different faces. Thus ends a colorful cosplay career of Kristi Noem. Comic-Con will miss you. That's from Adrian Curry. And yes, this lady is cray cray. Holding the guns. Remember this one over here on the far right? This is where the muzzle was directly at the head of someone that she's got there. She's got a cowboy hat. As the director, why are you doing this? Why do you have all these magazines? It's like these stinking badges type of person. She is crazy, and it's been cringe watching her. So she goes before Congress. They do a bunch of grilling, and it appears she has been fired or demoted. We played a clip of this guy at the beginning. Now, let me play this again, because this guy is, I don't agree with like, okay, this is where it's interesting. I come on here and I rip Trump and I rip the GOP from what I think is the right, okay? And then you hear the left do it and you're like, well, I kind of agree with like their pointing and not liking this person or push it, but they push at him for all the wrong reasons. Okay, like this guy, we need policy change. Is that what it is? I don't know, maybe, but it's not the policy that I want. And then you have like Chuck Schumer as an example. He's going after Trump on the war, but it's because he's not being tough enough. And it's like, oh, okay. You can't win with these. Okay, so she goes before Congress, and here's let's play a little bit of her testimony here. We're going to play a few clips of this, 1.25 speed, and I hope the volume let's crank it up here. Let's go.
How do you?
This is Republican Congressman Kennedy.
Square that concern for waste, which I share, with the fact that you have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently.
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercials out that told them that if they were in this country illegally, that they needed to leave, or we would detain them and remove them, and they'd not get the chance to come back to America the right way. That has been extremely effective.
Ask you to run these advertisements, is that right?
We had that conversation, yes, before I was put in this position and sworn in and confirmed, and since then as well.
Okay. Did you bid out those service contracts?
Yes, they did. They went out to a competitive bid, and career officials at the department chose who would do those advertising commercials.
And the people that you ended up picking were people who had formerly done your political work back in South Dakota, is that right?
No, that's not correct, sir.
I think it is.
No, it's not, sir. The individuals who, I believe the careers who they chose were 2 different media firms. There's been conversation about their subcontractors, but we have no legal authority to look into subcontractors on work like that.
Okay. And you're saying that you're testifying that President Trump approved this ahead of time. Is that my understanding?
We had conversations about making sure that we were telling people.
No, ma'am. I'm asking you, sorry to interrupt, but the president approved ahead of time you spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently.
Yes, sir. We went through the legal processes, did it correctly.
Did the president know you were going to do this?
Yes.
Okay, so evidently, we'll play some more of this stuff and continue. Now, Kennedy is doing some good work there of pointed questions, not just pontificate. That's what you see too much in these hearings, right? I'm going to grandstand and I'm going to make you look bad. He's just asking simple questions to get the truth out of her and basically forcing her to respond. And evidently Trump, just a spoiler, Trump did not give approval. He's like, I'd never heard of this. So she starts out by saying, yes, Trump and I had a discussion where we needed to get the word out to, the word out. So maybe she has latitude but $220 million and it's her riding a horse in Yellowstone. It's something like glamour porn that you'd look at here. So then she moves the goalposts as far as her answers go to, yes, get the word out, ads. Well, he was aware. Well, we had talked. Yes, he approved. That's what she just.
He did.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. And he reiterates. Okay.
And one thing, Senator, I think would be helpful to know is how effective that communications has been. That
Well, they were
overwhelmingly
effective in your name recognition. I mean, I personally just, I mean, to me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. And I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. It's just hard for me to believe, knowing the president, as I do, that you said, Mr. President, here's some ads I've cut, and I'm going to spend $220 million running them, that he would have agreed to that. I don't think Russ Vogt at OMB would have agreed to that. It's something we have to defend. I'm on the Appropriations Committee. My research shows that you did not bid them out, that you in fact, one of the people you picked, the strategy group, Safe America Media was a company formed 11 days before you picked them, and that the strategy group got most of the money, and the head of that is married to your former spokesperson. Look, we all have friends who are qualified. I'm not quibbling with that. It troubles me. A fifth to a quarter of $1 billion of taxpayer money when we're scratching for every penny and we're fighting over rescission packages.
Whoa. You're fighting over every penny. I get maybe you are, Mr. Kennedy, but come on.
I just can't agree with Madam Secretary. Are you still running those ads?
No, Senator, I did not have anything to do with picking those contractors. I know politicals at the Department of Homeland Security did.
I understand. Are you
Clear
still running
officials
those
followed
ads?
the competitive bid process for
Are you
that.
still running
Everything
those ads?
I think the ads are due to end here in March, I think within a week or
So
two.
they
I'm
are
not sure of the
still running?
update. The one that is running is focusing on angel families. Have you seen that? It is the one that's talking about this is our why. This is why we work every day.
Okay.
It's for the angel
I've gotta
families.
This is why we work every day. It's like we have to do $220 million justifying your job. I mean, to send out, it's bogus. And Tyler, why are you, Kristi Noem, there's other things going on. Yes. What's fascinating about this is it's typical government spending, and the Republicans are kind of coming after it. But why this? Why Kristi Noem, right? What are we doing here? Why is this so important? Suddenly now the Democrats, we're going to really crack down. Now, I think she's a piece of shit, and I'm perfectly glad kicking her out like this. It's just a little interesting that this is what's going to get you all riled up, okay? We've got let me pull this thing up here, because I think where is it here? No, I thought I had the link to, here, maybe this is, there we go. Let's pull this in here. This is the current Iran war cost tracker. Currently, we're at $6,843,723,000, and I can't keep up. So $6 billion here. And we're worried about $220 million that Kristi Noem is doing for glamour shots. Okay. I mean, yes, I think she's horrible and all that, but why is this? Why this one? Well, let's get to a little bit more that we have going on. Popcorn Power 87251 says, why is this not displaying on screen? There we go. Can Trump drone strike them too, as long as they has them equipped? Yeah, budgeting is much easier with drone strikes. I agree. It's probably cheaper too. I imagine you can do some cheaper stuff with that. Welcome aboard, Popcorn Power. Thanks for being in here. Okay, so that was her thing with. Now this was a post by Kyle Seraphin, who I'm more and more liking. Honestly, I know some of you guys, we've talked about him before. It's like, see a Fed, and I'm like, possibly, but I like what he's doing. The cut of his jib. He and I went back and forth on Twitter about which did a lot with you guys too, about the lady that was run over by running over the ICE agent, and then he shoots her dead, and he and I are going back and forth, and he didn't like what I was saying, but. Okay, so that's one thing we disagree with, and I could totally see from his perspective and your guys how this is. I told you all along, this is not a open and shut case, at least in my opinion, and maybe he thought so. That's why we're arguing about it. But I thought it was a bad shoot, not a good shoot. I don't know, her last name is Good. However, I've been fine with it. So he says here, Senator John Kennedy asked Kristi Noem point blank if President Trump agreed to her $220 million advertising campaign. She dodged several times before directly saying yes at the 2-minute timestamp. I'm guessing the answer was no. And this was a fatal career move. Now, this lady's like, she's not fired. She was given a different position. Okay. I see. You are the target audience for promoted to the useless position that didn't previously exist. Joined. Yeah.
How do you?
Hey, Senator, easy there. Okay. These are some clips here of Kristi Noem. I thought I would go down because Nancy Mace decided to make a comment about this on the news. Let's play this one.
Her? Do you plan on investigating? We're talking about over $200 million, the whole blanket thing. Do you think there should be an investigation launched into Kristi Noem?
I do, and now that I have more of this information, I think that we need to go back to a potential subpoena for her through the Oversight Committee.
Wow.
There was one failed on, I guess, a day or two ago, but I didn't have all the information. I would have, now that I know what I know now, I would have voted to subpoena her to get at that. I don't think she walks away from this, and she shouldn't, because as Republicans, we need to hold our own accountable, because President Trump is trying to reinstill trust in our institutions, in Congress, in the White House. He's doing a very good job of that by cleaning up some of the mess that folks have created, and I praise him for it.
Investigate.
Okay, so that's interesting, but I think Nancy Mace is solely doing this because she wants that glamour status. She doesn't. You can see these pictures here. I mean, they kind of are like. Now, I think Nancy Mace has bigger hoo-has than does Kristi Noem, but we don't know. We don't necessarily know about that. We need some data to come out there. Okay, so let's keep going. This one.
Two of them were chosen. That's inaccurate, Madam Secretary. I'll read from the notice from your agency. Given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossings, DHS identified 4 companies. 4 of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States. You identified 4. One of those is this Safe America Media company. Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address that's registered.
Did you guys like this guy on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? I mean, he danced interesting for a black man, but I didn't know he made it to Congress.
For this company. Do you know where that address is?
He did put out a touching video with James Vanderbeek right before he passed away.
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll tell you about
it.
According
to
Madam
law.
Secretary,
It was done by
the address is
officials.
registered to a political
It was
operative.
dollars that were spent
Madam Secretary, the company, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond.
Look,
The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board?
Yes,
that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered, apparently, or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota. The reason why I ask these questions is that this is taxpayer money. And I presume, I don't know this for a fact, but Senator Tillis noted yesterday the way in which your agency is blocking the Inspector General from 11 different investigations that it is trying to conduct. I don't know if this happens to be one of them. I certainly hope it is, because eventually the facts will become public in this regard. And
2 of them.
Okay, we got some questions here, and I want to make another point, kind of. I mean, look, this is the kind of shit she's doing, you know, this horse. We showed the thing with her doing, let's go here, this one, with the cosplay. You can see this. She's not serious, okay? Now, she was a governor, and then she came in here, and I think what happened is you have a terminal ability to just be corrupt and have your party. I'm a Republican, I'm fiscally conservative. Go fuck yourself. This is not at all what you. It's not the days of Taft out there. You know, the good Republicans that you've had over in the past. You're not that person. You're a shill, and you're spending it, and you're getting your family rich and your friends, and that's what's happening. And you're doing your glamour shots out there. It's unbelievable. But it's exactly what's happened. She's spending too much time dressing up, worrying about her makeup and being on a horse than taking care of things. Maybe this little thing, went up to 4 companies and then got taken care of, and it's like a friend, and they're able to tie it to her. And maybe the legitimate thing is she didn't know. Well, you're not conducting your office very well. If this is how it's going to happen, why are you on a fucking horse? That's what I want to know in the first place. Okay, so there's that. But that's not all the issues of why she was fired. But Jim has a good question here. He says, do you think this is setting the table for what's to come with Bondi? Reset the admin in time for the midterms. I don't think that's going to help. And I don't think so, because Bondi should have been canned long ago. She's possibly worse and in a more important position, I think, the DOJ, than Department of Homeland Security, than Kristi Noem. So I don't know if that's really setting the stage. And there's something about Pam Bondi that for some reason Trump just guffaws over. But all these people, the Kash Patels, they run their offices exactly how she is doing it here. They like the spotlight. They want to be playing hockey. They want to be out with the whatever. And it's annoying and it's gross. And good for them. Good for them for getting canned. Can Brian McGinnis sue Tim Sheehy for breaking his arm? I haven't looked into enough of that. Was Tim McGinnis in a position where he should have been kicked out by, then, it's like, you make your bed and you deal with it. Now, did I like what's happening? It's hilarious that, he was basically, they're coming after McGinnis now because he's like, I guess a commie, or he likes Palestine. Okay. You can be on the wrong side on a lot of issues and be joined. We've talked about this multiple times, Ukraine war, whatever, Gaza. How do you go in with people and not be used by them? That's the point. You got to be stronger. You've got to be taking point and putting your point of view out there. And I don't necessarily think that this situation is one I want to get into, because maybe it's a situation where I just don't want to be associated with this guy. I feel bad for, and I'd honestly, 1.7 point, let me do it as an engineer would. 1.776. Is that your birthday? I'm older than you. So yeah, I don't know if that's what it is. Not on OnlyFans. We demand a refund. What she might be on OnlyFans. So she, the Meghan Markle of Congress. Well, she's not in Congress. If you're talking about over here, the Kristi Noem, she's a Department of DHS, or Department of Homeland Security. She looks like the star in the TV show Homeland, but on HGTV. Homeland, solid show for the first few seasons, at least. Okay, do I have any more? Well, let's get really into this, because she did get removed. This is one last thing we'll take a look at here.
As Director of Department of Homeland Security, have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski?
Okay. Fantastic question. And the Democrats have come loaded for, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Bill Clinton. I read something, and it was pretty reliable sources, and I guess, I don't know if it's from the Epsteins, but there was reporting on this at the time, that at Camp David, President Clinton's in office, that Netanyahu actually had like recordings of Trump and Lewinsky, and then making kind of threats, and to have these negotiations that were with Yasser Arafat and Israel at the time. Fantastic, interesting stuff. And I remember at the time, and it makes sense if you think of like who got the kickoff from this, who wrote the initial stories. It was Matt Drudge, who I believe is Jewish. It was also what's her name? Her son is head of the Bulwark. Can't remember. Totally Jewish guy. He was a never Trumper, but Republican, worked at National Review. Beard, last funny. I can't remember his name. Jonathan Goldberg. His mom was a reporter who was part of this whole thing. So maybe they were getting influence. I mean, at this point, when I see the Jewish influence and the direct connections to the state of Israel, you start to wonder, maybe this was how it all came about, the downfall of President Clinton. However, let's keep going here. Back to, have you had sexual relations? Corey Lewandowski, by the way, another tie into the Jewish connection, because he was Trump's head man during the 2016 elections. If you remember, there was a battle of trying to take over Breitbart, okay? And with the battle of trying to take over Breitbart, because Andrew Breitbart had passed away, and now it was kind of up for grabs, and Ben Shapiro makes a move on it, and with that, he makes a move with this other female reporter who was supposed to be grabbed by Lewandowski at one of these, and she made, look at these marks on my hand, and it was a big deal. Okay. And then you see the video and you're like, okay, he's not attacking her. But that was something that Ben Shapiro was doing to try to take down Trump and to take over the Breitbart whole situation. Fantastic. A little bit of history lesson there. Let's go back into, have you ever had sexual relations with that woman?
Mr. Chairman, I am shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloid garbage in this committee today.
Reclaiming
and
my
ma'am,
time.
one thing that I would tell you is that he is a special government employee who works for the White House. There are thousands of them in the federal government.
So reclaiming
and
my
as
time,
an advisor,
Secretary, it is
and has
okay for
no,
you to be
no
offended
authority
by
to
the
be
question.
making any
It is
decisions.
okay for you to
has
be
no
offended
authority
by the
to
question.
be making
But it
decisions.
is also
I'm playing the match game song in the background because this is fantastic. Just say no. This is you say no, and then you say this is just disgusting.
a
putting
real
up your
question.
position. So what I would say
And
to
you should be able to
is
answer
that
the
what we do at the
question
Department of Homeland
clearly
Security every single
and without
day,
any hesitation.
every single day is to protect
if
this
someone
country
is
and
asking
to make
if
decisions.
you or any federal official is sleeping with their subordinate, that should be the easiest. You should be wanting to answer that question.
Is garbage?
Because it is not about
It is
your sex
offensive
life.
that you have brought
It is
that up.
about your
So
judgment.
that kind of garbage
It is
has
about
been refuted
reclaiming
for
my
years.
time so that
Jim, Righteous Gemstones, Magoo. This is exactly the Pam Bondi type of answer, right? This is what we don't want. This is fantastic. By the way, I'm going to be probably deposed here in a case. I don't want to get into that in a few weeks. And you know, my law partner, we were talking about depositions and being as an attorney being deposed on a for you personally. It's I'm watching Corey Richard's trial. If you've seen that in Utah, and they've had some attorneys on there talking, and attorneys are rough sometimes in court. One, you know the rules of evidence, you should, and so you know the objections or compound questions or whatnot. But sometimes even answering, I preach to my clients all the time about only answering the question that was asked. And he's like, because you want to just, but a deposition is not the time. It's the time to, one, just tell the truth plainly, simply, and only to answer the questions. Your attorney should help redirect and fill in the questions if you do. Plus, it's what is a deposition used for? It's, for me at least, it's used for two purposes. When I do a deposition, I want to, see do we have any evidence to go forward? I've had depositions on both sides where you do a deposition and you're like, okay, actually, this helped our situation. And we end up resolving it because the way the testimony is. Had that multiple times. Other times you do a deposition, then you go into trial, and now you have your transcript from there and you use it to impeach your testimony. So, I don't know what my point was, but let's keep
that
going.
I can hear myself share.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from California, but it'd be nice if you would let her respond.
I will. I want to let you know it is about your judgment and decision-making. It is about the 260,000 employees that work under you that want to make sure that you are giving information and making decisions clearly. It is about conflict of interest. It is about a national security risk. Department of Homeland Security was created right after 9/11 to protect the homeland. And DHS has circulated an internal bulletin to law enforcement partners warning that the conflict of the war we're in could inspire lone actors or small-scale cyber activity inside the United States, according to a memo obtained by ABC News. So American lives are at risk. The people who work for you are at risk. And they want to know that the person at the top, you, are making decisions clearly without any sort of cloudiness.
She's at the top. She's doing cowgirl. She's on the horse. I don't know. It's an open secret in D.C. Yeah, evidently it is. So we go further. The final straw prompting President Trump to fire Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was her stunning non-answer at the House hearing Wednesday, whether she had sexual relations with top aide Corey Lewandowski. Sources inside and close to the White House told the Post. Trump had been nearing the boiling point in his frustration with Noem and already considering ousting her after she claimed to senators that he approved $220 million in ads starring the secretary herself. But her inability to answer the question sealed her fate. The question about the fare at the hearing was actually the final straw. It was effing brutal, one source said to Noem's reply, which was widely seen as an admission that she was sleeping with her subordinate. She is. Her husband of 34 years, Brian Noem, had joined her at the hearing. Lewandowski was not in it. I mean, come on. She is, you just don't doubt it. Just the way you hear her answer, the way you see her acting, you're just like, yeah. Soon to be axed DHS head refused to answer directly when asked if she was having sexual relations with Lewandowski, called the question garbage. Have you had sexual relations with Corey Lewandowski? Representative Sidney Kamlager Dove of Democrat from California asked Noem during the hearing. Now, I will say this: I probably disagree with everything with that senator or representative anyway from California asked her. I mean, that she believes in herself. But I do like the fact that she kind of brings into the fact of like, look, you guys are. She didn't say it this way. This is what I'm saying. You guys are pushing this war. You want this war with Iran. Now, government people are a little bit more suspect. You're saying Iran is out there trying to take down the president and everything. You're at risk. Maybe you're at more risk with sleeping around and, being able to blackmail or whatever happens. Maybe keep your shit together a little bit. Maybe be more Pence-like and not just whoring out to everybody. So anyway, so that and the $220,000 seems to be a problem. Is this the final straw? Was Noem's refusal? Is this her Lewandowski or is this her husband behind her? That's her husband, Senator, right there. Top aide coordinator. I just have no sympathy for these people. Lewandowski, there he is, served as Noem's de facto chief of staff and terrified fellow DHS staff. I don't know if he did that. Okay, is that the last we have of Kristi Noem? I think it is. I don't know if there's any more things we want to play here. Is there any other clips? There was a clip down here of her being asked about the firing, and she laughs it off. Maybe we should play that. Where did it go? Do I have it? I don't.
It reminded me of the quote that is often attributed to George.
No, that's not what. Okay, we'll skip it. Now, they already knew all this. The hearing was technically a procedure to get her out because of Minnesota PR. Could be, and I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, she's been, come on. I mean, the money part, and did it get her out? Evidently. So there must be something to it. Whether this is the Lewandowski sexual part, I just think that's hilarious. And, you've got to zip up your undies. That's not the problem. I think the money problem was more of a deal. But it's crazy. I was just at the airport not too long ago, and you see, you got to use your ID or whatever, and she's, real ID, and it's her big picture with her makeup and stuff, and you're just like, oh my god, this is where we're at in life now. Let's take a look here. Does the president have, I'm not going to go over this whole thing. This is a Tom Woods thing, Liberty Classroom about presidential war powers. Here's some common claims on behalf of such powers as they apply, and then some claims. Maybe I'll post this out, but I think I will actually walk through this maybe Monday or Tuesday next week. The president has the power to initiate hostilities without consulting Congress. These are claims, and I think he's debunking these. John Adams made war on France without consulting Congress. Jefferson acted unilaterally against the Barbary pirates. Presidents have sent men into battle hundreds of times without getting congressional authorization. War Powers Resolution of 1973 gives the president the power to commit troops anywhere he likes for 90 days. If the United Nations authorizes military action, the president does not need to consult Congress. Anyway, there's a lot of this stuff here, and I think the Congress just tried to go out there and vote to see if, are we even going to, they were trying to bring a motion to even see if there's going to be a vote on whether we're going to declare war, and they decided no. And I think that's just kind of scummy, right? You can't even put your name on the record. You don't even want to do this. So I would say anybody that voted against that is just de facto, we're for it, and you could just pin it down. Because as Dave Smith was saying today on his podcast, these people want the war, but they don't want to be on the record. Speaking of Dave Smith, this was his encapsulation today, or at least I listened to it today, 21 hours ago. So yeah, I guess he posted yesterday on what he believes of the current state of the situation is with the war.
As you were kind of getting into in your intro, things are a little bit confusing right now. Okay. Now so we are now a week into a war with Iran. It's not a war, but it's been a war for 47 years, but it's not a war. Well, it's a war from them. On their side, it's a war. Our side, it's not a war, because it would be totally illegal if it was a war. It's not a war. We're just bombing the crap out of the country, and we killed their leader. I could understand where a lot of you might confuse that with a war, but it's not. It's not a war. Okay, well, it is a war, according to Pete Hegseth. According to the Secretary of War, it's a war, but not according to the Speaker of the House. So it is a war, but it's also not a war. I think the important thing to remember here, Rob, is that this is nothing like Iraq. It's nothing like Iraq. Now, we are going to arm the Kurds, but don't let that fuck with you too much. Which Kurds? Well, the Iraqi Kurds. Yes, the same Kurds we are in the Iraq. Well, okay, fine. So it's got that one similarity to the war in Iraq. But aside from that, but it's not even a war. So how similar could it be to the war in Iraq? And it's going to take weeks and not months. Yes, that is the same thing Dick Cheney said about the war in Iraq, if you want to be technical about it, but whatever. Also, there was a Politico piece this morning saying that the plan is to go until September. Okay, fine. So it might take months. Okay, but it'll be months, not years. As soon as the Kurds get in there, as we know, Rob, we've learned this in multiple different theaters, whether it's Iraq, whether it's Syria, when you arm the Kurds, that's when the dying stops. That's when things calm down. Okay, fine. Listen, in both of those particular examples, it led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people and didn't slow down the bleeding. But it's going to be different in Iran. I mean, after all, Rob, these are Persians. Anyway, so that's about where we're at. Is everybody clear? Did that clear anything up for you?
Yeah. Now, let me just go here, because Jim says a Jew getting hung up on semantics. Oh my, yes. The problem being, though, is you've got to. This is what we're being propagandized about. Okay, just exactly what he said. Those are the problems you have. My in-law, sister-in-law, and brother-in-law over, and there's some. Anyway, wants to send me a video last night of Marco Rubio. 10 years ago, making such a great case why this is the imminent threat now. I'm just like, okay, I don't want to keep getting into it. But then it was the arguments that you see. They've got nukes. Do you want nukes? I'm like, wait, we just destroyed them, right? And I was like, wait, okay, what? Well, they're sponsoring terrorism. I'm like, when have you been terrorized by Iran? It's all these little things that you can debunk over and over and over. But here we are, and you've got to kind of go through them. So let's talk about some of the, there's propaganda all sides. Okay. Now, whether this is propaganda or not, I don't know. But here we sunk an Iranian ship. And according to Mario, and I've seen a few other people, that this Iranian warship was invited to a joint naval exercise. Frigate Dena was in the Indian Ocean as a guest of India's Navy. Iranian sailors were paraded before India's president as a diplomatic gesture. Joint exercise planned with the U.S. and India. Then the U.S. abruptly withdrew from the exercise. Well, because we were hot war over in Iran. Hours later, torpedoed the same ship, killed 87 of the 130 soldiers aboard in international waters without warning. Iran's foreign minister called it an atrocity at sea. If Russia did this to the U.S. ship, we'd call it a war crime and an act of treachery. Well, yes, but we're at war with a terrorist state, not an actual sovereign state, even though you're going to give sovereignty to Russia. I mean, but we're not at war. And that's why I titled this thing, The Department of Strategic Strikes. Now, you can say all you want, Jim, that, semantics, but why is this even an issue? Because you're like, oh, we're going to war, we're bombing, and that's kind of the nomenclature that you would use. Hey, Israel's at war with Gaza. Now, is it a civil war? Is it an internal conflict? Are you just bombing the shit out of defensive people? I mean, there's all kinds of, takes you can do on this. But I think you kind of know when you start, lobbing grenades and drone strikes and military strikes and you kill their leader. I mean, come on, it's war. No, it's a strategic striking. But, the GOP wants, I played clips of this last time. That's what they keep saying. No, it's not a war. It's like, well, why does it matter? Why does it matter if it's a war or not, right? Oh, because if it's a war, now there's different rules. So you're playing games and you are playing semantics, and all Dave is doing here is calling out the wackiness of that. Now, is this propaganda or is this realistic? I don't know. And Danish sailors were invited as guests. They showed up in good faith for military cooperation. They were killed for it, Reuters and Al Jazeera. Now, I don't know if that's the case. Was this a war crime? A defenseless ship just being sunk at sea? Perhaps. But let's go here to more stuff. So this is the kind of shit that now remember, I talked about this, but I did it really as a point of mocking. Huckabee comes out in his interview with Tucker Carlson, and he just outlines that Israel's the most moral war, more moral than the Americans, and then kind of denigrates the American military. Okay. And then he also calls Aguilar a liar. He's a Marine. Now, perhaps. And what the deal is, Huckabee has all this evidence that he supposedly I was part of this whole thing. Well, then why don't you release it, right? Aguilar has been very specific on some of his claims, and I do tend to believe him because what are the sources on the other side? What is his motivations? I don't know, but if you're just talking about initial clocking of how you feel about this, I don't know that he's really got a dog in the fight necessarily. He was getting paid to do this. Huckabee says he was fired. Now, I've seen all the tweets and stuff and messages that Aguilar has put out, and I don't think he was fired. He quit. I mean, that was part of the whole deal. They were trying to continue. Anyway, so there's a lot of lying going out there. So he calls a military guy a liar. He calls our military basically less than the IDF. I don't know. Is it propping up the IDF or is it denigrating the U.S.? I don't know. So you can make comments from that Huckabee is downplaying and ridiculing a nation that he is representing in another nation. I remember in the 90s or the 2000s, the Dixie Chicks, they go across to Europe and they're shitting on America, and we're all mad because we're at war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it's like, oh, these American haters. And it's like, okay, yeah. Now imagine you're an official representing the United States in a foreign country and you're shitting on our country in favor of the one that you're in. That's interesting. I don't really personally care about that. And I don't really think the game works so much like that. But keep that in mind, because if he can do it as a representative of the U.S. military and advocating for this war, our representative of the U.S. government, which is, our military, and advocating for this war, well, then what is it when these people freak out about you just saying, I don't like what our government is doing? We have a right to say that. Well, here's what Elizabeth Hasselbeck has to say about you people, and, particularly my kind in general. Let's go.
If I could just say this. Yeah. Number one, Megyn Kelly's clip that we ran before is saying who those troops died for. How dare you?
Saying that they're dying for Israel. Why don't you instead of your getting all riled up about it, okay? Why don't you dispel what she's saying?
Megyn Kelly, how dare you tell a military person who has sacrificed their lives for our nation in our uniform, when they are sacrificing their lives in our uniform, how dare you tell them or their families or our nation what they died for?
Oh, you better be careful. She'll come right back at you. She's like a roller derby.
I'm not afraid of her, but I have.
Notice how these other women don't really push back here, right? Which you typically do all the time. And I don't know if they're in favor of this war, so why aren't you pushing back on this?
My heart with my friends in the military, you do not get to authorize who they died for. So let me just clear that up. So I'm not.
I mean, remember Tillman? He was he played for the Arizona Cardinals, football player. and decides to join the military after 9/11, joins it, and then gets killed, and they want to make it like, oh, he's just a hero, and it was like friendly fire. You don't think his family, how dare you question why he was killed? Maybe the war itself is bullshit. Maybe it's not Sam Tillman who joined the military. Maybe it's a kid that just wants his GI Bill and whatever and just wants to get on. And now suddenly you're out there. And two, let's say it's for whatever reason, maybe a Bill Clinton wants to bomb a pill factory to take away the fact that he's banging Monica Lewinsky. We're really going back here to the Clinton days in this episode. And maybe your son dies because of that. Is it okay? You know, we're going to get joined in Bosnia with Clinton. I mean, there was a bunch of there was a movie called Wag the Dog specifically about that kind of stuff. Do you not have a right then to complain? You don't think the military people are out there, you know, sitting in their undies, in their sheath underwear in the middle of the desert, just heighten life, you know, and going like, what the fuck are we doing here? These guys are goat herders. They don't want us here. They're not going to adhere to democracy. You don't think they can question the rightness of any of these wars? Vietnam, was this the most sanctified war ever, right? Every single war, you can't question it. The families can't question why their kids were killed at war. And look, yeah, you can have multiple motivations for this. You can be an American hater, perhaps. Or maybe you just don't like the fact that your friends and families are getting sent out there and you're like, why are we doing this? Well, this doesn't make any sense. According to Elizabeth Hasselbeck, how dare you?
And I come here. I may vote Republican and I'm a conservative, but I'm a thinking woman and I have a heart with this war or military attack. Well, are you glad that the...
Interesting. Did you hear that? With this war, military attack, even in her outrage over Megyn Kelly, she's got to get the wording right. Because the page, the talking points is, it's not a war. Why? Why is it so important that it's not a war? Oh, because he didn't get, you know, authorization and who knows.
The leaders there are gone, that they're not flinging women off buildings and gay people off buildings. If I could just say this.
I do love that. Okay, let's go to here. JC in the chat. Oh my God. Hi, Tyler. And I know this, Jim. Thank you for making this, but I'm making fun of Jewishness. I get it. I get it. Of course, it's a war. They can't say that though because of lack of declaration. Yeah, completely. Sounds anti-Semitic. Pat Tillman. Did I say Sam? Maybe that was his brother. No, Pat Tillman. Thank you. Thank you, Pat Tillman. Okay, let's go through some of this other propaganda stuff here. Just continue along the lines. And it's about not thinking for yourself because nothing is... Glenn Beck, who we're going to play a clip of here as well, he constantly talks about this, I think it's Jefferson saying something about surely if there is a God, God would want you to basically question his existence rather than just blindly following along. Perfectly think. You think it's more detrimental to your ultimate life and salvation as a Christian, I would say, than to question God or to question Trump, right? If God is okay with you questioning him, should Trump be okay? Should you be okay with others questioning Trump? Or is that just going to be, because these people make it sound like it's worse. So let's go here. Let's see what she has to say.
Is not between the interventionists and the isolationists or even between Trump and some elements of his base. The real debate, the real conflict here is between those who believe America is good and those who believe fundamentally America is corrupt and evil. Because if you believe the latter, like sadly most Democrats, the media, the academia do, you believe that the U.S. may not use its military unless we are advancing international interests and internationally approved. But if you believe America is special, that she's worth saving, you believe that our military exists to keep the American people safe and our interests abroad secure, even if the world will criticize us down the road.
All right, I don't know who wrote that for her, but that's bullshit. Because she pans it in only two ways. You either hate America or because the operation, since we're Republicans and we've started this war, because I've listened to her for quite a long time, and you know, she didn't always feel this way about every other war. If you're a Democrat and you're starting some sort of skirmish around that, Clinton, God damn it, I'm going over him over and over and over, right? There was Bosnia. There was argument. I remember Sean Hannity freaking out about, oh, we're going to conduct a war at 30,000 feet. That's what you're going to do? That's ridiculous. And they're going off. Okay. You can question it. So it's either you hate America or your interests have to be, you can't have any, I'm sorry, I'm distracted here. We got some payments on the board. Our boy JC, you know what? Let's do how would you feel? Chime in here, because I know Magoo, JC are part of this. You guys are members of you're part of the membership over at tyleryonke.substack.com. We should do like a Zoom. I could use my restream. I have as many guests. We just come in there and we'll have a conversation. Let me know if you're interested in that. Maybe we'll do a Saturday night and we'll do like you guys come in and we'll just do a chit chat. We'll spend some time just talking about bullshit. We could watch some clips or whatever. But I think that might be kind of fun for members. So I would like to do that. We're the good guys because we say so. Yeah. And you know what? It's like what makes you you're only the good guys as long as you act like the good guys. I believe like my family is good. I believe, my church, my community, my friends, my online buddies, like you guys all are good. Presumption, right? But I have kids too, and you presume your kids are good. But maybe your kids are doing some shit. You don't then, let's say your kid wants to trans himself or whatever. You don't play into this game of just like, whatever you want is good because you're good. It's like, no, sometimes that tough love is necessary. You don't just allow them to continue to do bullshit. And because at some point they're going to do crap like what we're doing here. Jim's down. Okay. We should do that. We should do that. Let's think of a time. Maybe we'll plan it for, I'd like to do it this week, but maybe we'll plan it ahead for like next Saturday. Be like a Saturday evening type of thing. Let's go for there. Okay, let's keep playing some of these clips. This is another thing that cracks me up here. This is 33 minutes. I don't know if, see if I could do some of this because I tend to think that Glenn Beck posts this thing out of him talking to, would the founding fathers approve of Trump's war in Iran? I won't pretend to speak for them, but in January, I sat down with George AI and asked for his views on foreign entanglements and military action. Here's what he said. Now, Glenn has come out and now said, look, you don't understand. This is AI that's been all put into him, so it's just them answering. I don't think so. This guy, when he talks to this, AI version and they have it, I think it is Glenn reading off a script that he thinks the George Washington would do. Because to me, the syntax, the way he speaks, I think it's Glenn, but doing it through an AI voice. Listen to this and see if you can tell the difference between, because I've listened to Glenn for years. Okay, since plus right around 9/11 times, probably a year or so after I found him right around there. Listening to him for years, like intensely a lot, and I've really been disappointed with him over the last few years. But let's take a look. George Floyd AI.
Trying to not fight foreign wars and not be involved in the world's policemen. But there are times that we have to demonstrate strength in order to prevent conflict. But I don't know where the foreign entanglement begins and where it ends.
When I was president, I did not crave power. I didn't strut in my uniform, dreaming of conquest. In fact, I begged several times to not be the general and not be the president. I didn't want it, but I understood my responsibility. And I also understood that some things that are easy to forget when you're staring down bayonets. Peace is not the default. It has to be guarded deliberately with foresight and strength. My generation lived through a fragile independence. Our new republic was surrounded, literally and figuratively, by instability. Most of the founders believed that we would not survive to 1820. We thought it was an interesting experiment. European powers were sniffing the opportunities. States were threatening to splinter. Loyalists were lurking. None of this was hypothetical. It was the daily background noise of early America.
So how did you protect that freedom?
Well, you said it, through strength. Weakness didn't just invite disagreement, it invited disunion. And I had already seen what happens to authority when it is too diluted. The Continental Congress couldn't pay the troops, they couldn't enforce unity or act decisively. That kind of vacuum doesn't stay empty. Either chaos fills it or another power does. And that's why I often emphasize the importance of demonstrating readiness. Not because I wanted conflict, but to discourage those who did. I said once, to prepare for war is one of the most effective means of preserving peace. That's not saber rattling, that's different. It's insurance. Think of it like this. A homeowner who never locks their door isn't more peaceful.
Okay, a home, I'm gonna break this down a little bit here. But a homeowner, so America, we're talking about us here, okay? Our home is this continent, which is United States, or it's the American continent, okay? North America. We are here. That's the home if you're gonna do this comparison, okay? Not the Middle East, here.
They're just more vulnerable. By showing potential adversaries that the United States could stand united, respond quickly, and protect its liberties.
Respond.
That it understands.
Protect its liberties. America, here, this continent.
I believed conflict could be prevented before it exploded. And this wasn't abstract.
Okay, show strength at home.
During the Revolution, even some Virginian leaders wanted to keep pursuing negotiations with Britain. But I came to recognize long before it became popular that some risks had to be met with resolve, not appeasement. And there is a world of difference between aggression and deterrence. I knew the line, I walked it, and I tried to draw a system that could do the same.
Look, Glenn, what he didn't do there was, this is AI, right? What he didn't do there was explain, whoa, George, I get it. Maybe I didn't explain this to you well enough. I'm talking about Iran. It's a country in the Middle East. It's further away, possibly, than Britain. If you go to Britain and then you got to go down all the way, and then it's in the African continent. It's a long way away, okay? Would you be okay in deterring? This is along the lines of like female trans, which is actually a male, can be pregnant. I'm just deterrence. Deterrence is me killing everybody in their homeland before it comes here. And George would be like, whoa, what the fuck are you talking about? Now, I want to say a few things. One is, if you're going to really try to use the words of the founding fathers, let's go full bore. Let's go all the way out there, right? With every little thing that you want to do. Fine, we'll do that. Do with it. I mean, the 14th Amendment is gone, first of all, okay? Gone, because we've had discussions about that. And all this other bullshit, and if he wants to use this, but he wants to use just the one little thing to emphasize something that he is begging for, which is Glenn Beck has been begging for Israeli citizenship for years. Okay, George Washington. Glenn should have asked George's policy on killing men in their sleep, and if that was within the rules of engagement. Yeah, using AI to impersonate the dead is so tacky. True, but let's take a look at that. Who would you, what dead person would you, would you want to reincarnate through AI to go and hang out with, have an interview, right? I don't know. Me, it'd probably be some sports person, Mickey Mantle, maybe a New York Yankee great. My dad tells amazing stories about him. So maybe him. Maybe for me, maybe some old time cyclist that I'd want to talk about. What are we drinking tonight? Wow, banned Photoshop. Thanks for asking. Some Athletic Brewing. I'm still working on that, but it's been a rough week. I was not going to drink all during the week. Family came to town, and I'm like, okay, well, we're going out on Tuesday. I'll just have a drink or three. And then Wednesday came along, and like, maybe another. Or maybe it was Wednesday, Thursday. So tonight I have a Stone IPA. But I went and rode my bike before the show today. It's been getting better and better. So have you seen the Stone Toss comic where someone tells Washington, Mr. President, there's unrest in the Middle East. And he says, who gives a fuck about the Middle East? No, I have not seen that, but it sounds right on point. Let's keep going here. I want to play this because we're going to play some, this guy, we're going to keep playing this propaganda stuff. Like I said, I don't know, but all the propaganda from the other side. Now they're saying that the kids that were killed with the drone strike were America's fault. Okay, well, of course it is. America, whether you get your intel wrong or not, the shit's going to happen. This is the problem though because you had the Nye Renell MD guy coming in here last week, and I'll also say this: a lot of times when I'm playing clips and I'm listening and I'm paying attention and I'm looking into the camera as I do, or looking into this camera as I do. But you can see my, I don't always have the ability to just see the chat, okay? Or I'm not always just looking at the chat. So this guy last week who came into our chat, joined us up when we were doing a bunch of stuff, Ricada stuff, perfectly fine. You guys could disagree with me, but you kind of see how I feel about this, right? America first. That's honestly where my focus is. And now you're seeing it's fascinating, right? I'm not there with this, but Megyn Kelly is maybe the best example of what Charlie Kirk was emphasizing right before he died, which is you've given me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause, okay? She has done nothing but try to be fair, I think, in her own way, which is still very pro-Israel. And she is getting called, Ben Shapiro calling her coward, all kinds of names. And it's like, oh, I get it. I mean, so you think you're trying to win these people over, or you're trying to influence friends and be all whatever. Yeah, but when you shit on them and you call them names, you know, it's no different than during the BLM riots. These people are, you know, a bunch of lefties and angry black people are burning your cities down. Okay, and then you're going like, no, I don't want to put a black square on my Instagram. I'm not gonna do that. And they're like, oh, you're a racist. And you're like, okay, yeah, I'm just go fuck yourself more, because no, that's not what I am. That's what Ben Shapiro is doing, and the Zionists. You're driving the Megyn Kellys out. It's unbelievable. Okay, so let's keep playing some of this stuff here because this is fascinating. I want to emphasize this, which is I'm an attorney, and you've got to make arguments. Now, Ben Shapiro is famously known as an attorney as well. And yes, he can do some legal scholar analysis, which he's done. And it's very much like Mark Levin, which is high level, kind of like professor-like, okay? And I don't mean that as a pejorative, and I don't mean that as a compliment, okay? It just means that you're a professor. Now, I'll back up a bit. I got my undergrad in engineering. The engineers, the professors that I had, every one of them that I knew of, they had first been in private and public. They had worked as an engineer, full-blown engineer. And one of my favorite professors, he taught robotics and a bunch of other stuff. He famously would say to all the time, he'd worked for General Dynamics. He'd worked for Douglas Martin, basically making bombs, and then he didn't feel comfortable about that anymore. But he would say, well, I could tell you about this, but then I'd have to kill you. But he also said some amazing stuff like, look, for school, you've got to memorize things. I understand. And then you've got to, but he's like, in the real world, 3 phone calls and you're talking to the foremost expert in the world on this subject. So you don't have to always remember and memorize everything. The real world application from him was great, as were all my engineering professors. Okay, great stuff. It wasn't just theoretical; it was practical and how it was involved. It was great. Then I went to law school, and almost invariably, because I had to do night school, all of my professors there were they were judges, they were full-time attorneys. You got real-world application, and that was for me even more important because what I'm doing is like, you know, you get out there and you start practicing. And it's like, okay, here's the elements to this. Well, not a crime, but like a civil action because I was doing civil work. But you know what was more important was knowing all the timetables for this. Like when can you file? When do you have to serve a party? When do you have to give notice? How many days for when you filed discovery is it due? Is it 5 days plus for personal for no service for mail service? All these little things you have to know. 45 days for motion to compel. All these that was the huge thing. So my point here is real world application from real world people. Ben Shapiro is an attorney, okay? I don't know if he's a licensed attorney, but listen to this. If he ever produces evidence for his complaints, okay? It's like what we saw with Elizabeth Hasselbeck. Oh, you fucking bring up proof of what they're saying. It's the easy thing that I've said over and over and over, which is you say this is X, Y, and Z because, and then you fill it in with the blanks. Now, I want to get back to the chat real quick. The gentleman last week was all pissed off because he's like, he said something about incoherence or compare Iran and Ukraine. And then he's like, oh, Tyler's too chicken. He won't answer. And I'm like, I'm fucking conducting a show here. This is not your show. It's my show. I love and I appreciate all the chat, and I try to get to everybody here as much as possible. But this motherfucker thinks that I owe him something, right? I'm trying to entertain, okay? And I'm just pretty much a jackass coming up here, but I don't think I'm incoherent. But if you're gonna put a question in, so my point on all this is I'll try to get to the chat. But don't go working it. And you guys have been great tonight. No bullying Tyler in the chat. Yeah, exactly. I would bring back Crip Daddy. Well, stop Tyler hate. Now, I don't know if you guys are hating at all. Wait, is he a road cyclist? Never mind, carry on. I am a road cyclist. I did a good ride this afternoon. Things would be awesome if you just let it be like that. Okay, let's play this.
He
right
had
here.
on Dave Smith. Apparently, his job is never to tell jokes, but to instead give poorly informed foreign policy takes.
Okay, so I'm going to be a little nitpick on this. Dave breaks this whole thing down, but you can go talk to him. Dave is on tour almost every weekend, telling jokes, okay? And if you've been to his comedy, he goes out with Robbie. I mean, look, as an example, Tim Dillon, who I think is fantastic on his own show, I watched his comedy special and I was like, nah, not that good. Sorry, not that good, Tim. You're a funny guy. I think you're much better as improv than doing your stand-up. Just throwing that out there. Jay Okerson, which I love, his whole thing. Now you're kind of like an old man. You're almost like a grandpa. And I'm like, yeah, your crowd work is a little, I just don't find him as funny either. But I still think he's pretty funny. The point is, you're going out. I think Dave does a great comedy show, and you should go check it out if you have a chance. I laughed. I took my wife. I took friends who weren't part of this libertarian shit in politics, and they enjoyed it a lot. I sat next to Toad too, by the way. Okay, let's keep going.
Thanks.
Oh, so I just want to say this. He has no idea what he's talking about. But, you gotta hate. Let's make sure the volume is up here. Sorry.
Never to tell jokes, but to instead give poorly informed foreign policy takes, and also to hate America.
Okay, foreign policy takes, such as, and then give an example of his poor foreign policy takes. That's how you do it. If you're going to, you just polish show. I'm not a polished show, but I will try to at least always give examples as to why your answers are insanity and maybe not good, or why I disagree with them.
Okay, here we go.
The IDF is the worst terrorist organization in the region. Let's get real. The United States of America is arguably the worst terrorist organization in the world. If you want to look over the last 25 years, how many innocent civilians we've slaughtered. You're getting us into the neocon. Yeah, that's right. You're getting us into the neocon seventh war.
Well, Ben Ferguson rightly notes at that point that he might want to take down the American flag behind him. That is right. It doesn't matter, it turns out, how many times you appear on
Look, you can take constructive criticism against your country. This is the problem with the Ben Shapiro's types, and I warn you guys against it too, which is this blind adherence to your government and just because your party's in power. Okay, I mean we're seeing the Kristi Noem, and I'll give Nancy Grace or Mace, whatever, and Kennedy some props here. Now you always have to question why they're doing what they're doing, and I've mentioned that before. But I give them some credit for at least like, oh, this is shit. At least the money is $220 million. What the fuck is that? That's horrible. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm going to go after you, and we're going to maybe investigate you for that. No, not according to Ben Shapiro. I know because I've listened to him over the years. He said shitty things about America, the government and whatnot. That's really what Dave's saying. Now, what I have said, what Dave did about America's, one of the most prolific terrorist organizations in the world. I mean, look, the problem is, it's like I said about people that live over in Israel area, the West Bank as an example, they have a much different perspective of what Zionism means than someone like Ben Shapiro, who never has had to experience it from the butt end of a rifle or a rock, okay? Those people experience it much differently than he does. And there's people around the world that experience the American military much differently than someone like Ben Shapiro or Huckabee or Donald Trump or any of the boys that are fighting. We had our boy Patrick Schouts in here, and he and I think that's who it is, and he and I have had conversations, and he was fighting over in the Middle East against these people, and he did not like them, and he has a very disdain, down view of it. I get it. I get where from his perspective. Now, if I were to have a podcast with Muhammad over there in Iraq, he might have a different perspective too. I was just in here with my goat field, look at and taking care of it. And next thing you know, I didn't have anything to do with this. I'm just, chilling with my poppy fields. And next thing I know, you guys are over here shooting at us. Of course I'm going to shoot back. I've lived here all my life. I have a gun. You go out in the middle of the West in the good old days and see what happens. So there's perspective, right? And is Dave correct on that? I mean, if you want to, we've said this before, if you want to really take into perspective, break this down as to money spent and for what causes are we meddling in? Would Washington, we played the clip there, would AI Washington really be okay with us just going everywhere and doing stuff? I don't know.
Joe Rogan's show, or how many times you hide behind your title of comedian who holds the Guinness Book of World Records for fewest jokes told, or how many times you spew puerile analogies that demonstrate nothing but unbelievable, willful ignorance of the nature of war. I'm sorry.
Such as, explain it, break down, push back against any of his argument. That's what I'm looking for here. You guys pay attention.
Sorry,
as well.
but you hate the country if you say America is the worst terrorist organization in the world.
You don't. If your kids are fucking up and you love them, it doesn't mean that you're just okay with what they're doing. That's what, once again, I wouldn't have said they're the most, biggest terrorist organization in the world, but I get it.
You just do. To make that argument, you have to deliberately obscure the difference between actual terrorists who actually are seeking deliberately to kill innocent people in the name of politics, not collateral damage, deliberately seeking to kill innocent people, and nation states who are seeking to avoid civilian casualties, often while fighting those actual terrorists.
Okay, you can't do that. So this goes right to Jim, but talking about mocking the Jewish man for semantics. I mean, it's semantics. And if you want to be, legalistic about it, we've talked about, what the legal standards are. Well, if you're going to go down that route, that killing of that ship in Iran, if it's as noted, that is a war crime of just shooting down an unarmed ship. I don't know. I need to see more details, but on the surface, that's a problem. Okay. We talked about Huckabee out there where they're giving aid to the people in Gaza, and they're just shooting, even shooting guns around just to deter people. That's also against the Geneva Convention. We've talked about the Fourth Geneva Convention and how they see Gaza and the way they're treating it, collective punishment. It's against the rules there too. So, if you want to go down this semantic route, we can play these games all you want. But if you just take it from a realistic perspective, what are you doing? I'm sorry. Since you're a sovereign power, it's justified. That takes away, that just the humanity, right? Isn't there? And look, maybe we're justified in going to, I don't know. Who's going to hold us accountable? Who's going to hold any of these fuckers accountable ever? Nobody.
Which, of course, is the point for people who hate America, to reduce America to...
See, now he's got to make sure that hate in America is the prime thing. There's nothing there that Dave said that he hates America. Maybe he loves that they're the biggest terrorist organization. I don't know.
The level of its enemies in order to uphold those enemies. That is the goal. Now, I know that Dave Smith is super duper excited that his name was mentioned here. And he's sitting there shouting at his TV screen in his basement, "Debate me, bro!" To which I answer, nah.
I don't understand... Ben Shapiro with those eyebrows and 5'4" of him, it's just the Jewish supremacy. I guess, Dave being too tall, maybe that, because Dave's Jewish as well. But why is it always he's a troll? He's living in his basement. You haven't said one thing about the arguments here.
I don't debate with trolls who claim that America is the biggest terrorist state in the world because that is idiotic. I didn't debate the Lyndon LaRouche followers who sat in Harvard Square carrying anti-war cardboard signs back in the day. And I feel no necessity to debate a completely intellectually dishonest interlocutor who spends his days cribbing Noam Chomsky and then immediately retreats to his pose of ignorant comedian every time he is confronted with a fact.
Okay, this is just bullshit. I mean, if you guys watch Dave, this is not what he does at all. Dave's out there making everybody... It's just so childish. But
Dave Smith is the kind of fellow who says that Donald Trump should be in jail for life as a war criminal, legitimizes every single scurrilous figure on the internet from Nick Fuentes to Candace Owens.
Candace Owens. Now, you can dislike Nick Fuentes. You can dislike Candace Owens. But how did Candace Owens come to prominence? Daily Wire? Who is in charge of the Daily Wire? Ben Shapiro? So did Dave Smith prop up and legitimize Candace Owens? Or did Ben Shapiro do it, make her super prominent and famous, and now he's complaining about it?
And then demands that everyone treat him as though he is some sort of honest, worthy intellectual opponent. He's not. If you would like to hear a complete dismantling of Dave Smith, I highly recommend Coleman Hughes' interview with Smith over at the Free Press. Just go check that out. Save yourself some time. And by the way, you also hate America if you claim that the President of the United States is merely a tool of foreign interests without any evidence whatsoever, like none. You are promoting lies directly mirroring those of the Iranian terrorist government in direct contravention of truth and of the Trump administration's own words. He had on...
I would say, Sean, thank you. May Donald Trump bathe in the adrenochrome of every Iranian child. Welcome, Sean. Hey, answer my fucking DMs, and then we'll come on and do a show together. But until then, you're just going to have to keep giving me money. Now, what did... I want to go back to that last bit that he said there, because I'm trying to remember what I was going to say.
Evidence whatsoever, like none.
Evidence. All right. Except for the fact that we have Netanyahu for months and years begging this to happen. Then you had Marco Rubio, you had Speaker Johnson, both saying, oh, we're getting pulled into this because Israel wants to do it. So I would like to see, once again, Ben Shapiro do anything where he brings up a point and then actually protects it with proof. Okay, we're almost done here. Let's see what Leavitt has to say about.
Remind people, X is not real life. This president lives in the real world. And with respect to MAGA, President Trump is the leader of MAGA. He's the creator of the MAGA movement. And there is nothing more America first than taking out terrorists who have maimed and killed our own servicemen and women, who chant death to America and who pose a threat to the homeland.
All right, so once again, we got bad words, death to America, it's over and over. This one, I don't want to play that. These people, here we go. This is why we're really going to war.
1979, this is them post-1979. Sadly, under the sick leadership of these terrorists, women are treated like dogs. Do you hear that? Women are treated like dogs. They are forced to cover every part of their body, of their skin except for their eyes. They aren't allowed to leave home unless they're with a male escort. They aren't allowed to get an education or work a job, and they are forced sometimes to marry young as 6 years old. Pedophilia and inbreeding are rampant, and women are lucky if they are allowed to drive. Hell, we have a U.S. Congresswoman from one of these third world Muslim countries who is married to her brother. Where are all my Democrat colleagues who claim to be feminist?
Okay. This is why we're doing it now, because it's so stupid. Okay, last thing I want to do here, let's see, is 48 seconds. Let's see what Trump has to say.
And I'm once again calling on all members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military, and the police to lay down their arms. They're only going to be killed. And now is the time to stand up for the Iranian people and help take back your country. You're going to have a chance after all these years to take back your country. Accept immunity. We'll give you immunity. And we'll be giving you really the right side of history, because that's what it is. So you'll be perfectly safe with total immunity, or you'll face absolutely guaranteed death. And I don't want to see that. They don't want to see it either. We also urge Iranian diplomats around the world to request asylum and to help us shape a new and better.
Okay, so we're taking in the Iranians now. There you go. I'm not going to play that one. Not going to play Matt Walsh. There we go. So Trump is, this is Trump's spiritual advisor.
and strike until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of shouting and singing. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance.
Okay, it goes on for another minute. So if you don't think that there's like religious fanaticism, then this is the other one. This is beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. Here's Trump getting prayed over.
Lifting up the arms of our president. We pray for your continued blessing and favor to rest upon him. We pray for wisdom from heaven to flood his heart, his mind, and Lord, you will guide him in these challenging times that we're facing today. I pray for your grace and your protection over him. I pray for your grace and protection over our troops and all of our men and women serving in our arms.
By the way, that lady in red, where'd we go here? That's this one.
Rain. I hear a sound of victory. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. The Lord says it is done. For I hear victory, 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 victory in the corridors of heaven.
Forces. And Father, we just pray you'll continue to give our president the strength that he needs to lead our great nation as we come back to one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We pray your heavenly blessing upon him in Jesus' name.
All right. So is that heretical that there's praying over Trump? No, I think that's perfectly fine to pray over Trump. That does need to happen. It's just how it's done. It's like, hey, we instead of like protect these fucking people and he did say the troops there. There's a lot of issues that just hell yeah. With that wrist endurance, would. Okay. Well, I'm glad you were there. Let's talk about, why don't you guys go to here? Let's go over here to my Substack, tyleryonke.substack.com. Join in. We can do chats over there. We can start talking about maybe I'll put out a post about possibly doing a Saturday nights thing where we just the people in the group, we get all on a restream. Join in and you can, I would love to see who JC is, but you can we won't record it, but you can always make it private. So it's not there as well. That's what I think we have going on for today, folks. Thanks for everything. Hope you have a really good weekend. I don't know what you have planned, but the Bay Hill Invitational's on, so there's golf going on. Strada Bianca, it's a big bike race tomorrow. Fantastic. I am stoked about what's going on with that. I'm going to do maybe some golfing myself, some bike riding. We're going to try to get away from the news. Just tune in here, get a little bit of a shit show that we have every week. You can call me incompetent. You can do whatever you want. Pay the money. Our boy JC gave some money. Our boy potentially criminal Sean gave some money. Love you all. That is just great. Once again, tyleryonke.substack.com. And do we have any fun things to do?
What cause is dear to your heart?
Cause is dear to my Israel, the defense of Israel.
What is number one?
There you go.
Okay, we know.
But she's back.
And now.
Tyler, if you had any clout about you, if you had any knowledge of the real world,
none of us are screaming, "Let's kill Tyler."
Tyler says, "My
Jewish princess."
You low key, you're one of the funniest dudes in the Liberty world that I know.
More or less, eat shit and die.
He's just a podunk lawyer somewhere in rural California. He's an idiot, really.
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick. I guess that's me. Keep fucking that chicken.
Do you see what he just did to Tyler? I feel like you don't get the appreciation for your humorous wit.
What are you talking about? I didn't say that. Why don't you argue with something I said, you dumb bastard?